Hello everybody, it's Anna here again today, and today we are at Dinorwig Quarry, the abandoned village of Dinorwig Quarry here in Llanberis in Snowdonia in North Wales. And this is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and we're going to be learning some history and maybe some Welsh language as we go along. So come along and join us. You are very, very welcome. Don't forget, welcome in Welsh is croeso. Here you see Alf proceeding up these steps, and they were quite slippy because it was quite a wet and very, very windy day. So it can be quite treacherous at times, so you do have to wear the correct walking shoes. I've got to say that now, you just saw mine there. So you do have to be careful, but this is the starting point, and it does go up very high, and there are wild goats there that have got horns, so you do have to be really careful. But anyway, so yes, the series of metal stairways and slate steps, I do struggle with English sometimes, lead uphill into the woods, which is a fairly steep climb with a lot of uneven slate steps, so it is important to be careful under the foot. And higher up into the woodland, the steps finally lead to another section of pathway between two large slate walls, and this is known as the zigzag path. And you'll see the two lakes now. There's Llanberis on the left and Llanberis on the right as you're looking downwards, and it's the most beautiful place. So let me tell you some history as we're walking up. As you travel through Snowdonia, set amongst the rugged mountain peaks and glistening lakes, you'll find walls of grey blue slate scattered about the landscape, and northwest Wales was at the forefront of the slate industry for much of the 19th century, with Wales slate exported around the globe. But for more information on that, if you want any, we do have a particular video on Llanberis on the slate museum there, so go to that if you want more details about the slate and where it went. And don't forget, the Wales slate landscape, of which this is part, became a UNESCO World Heritage Site in July 2021, which recognises the region's 1,800-year history of slate mining, its people and culture, and its role in roofing the 19th century world. So we are up now at what is the abandoned village, and it's called the Anglesey Barracks. Now, for those of you who are wondering what that is, these are 2 rows of 11 cottages located on the hillside just outside the main Dinorwig Quarry, and these houses were built in the 1870s and provided housing for the quarrymen who lived too far a distance to go home each night, and these men would stay at these barracks during the week and travel home at weekends. And each cottage at these Anglesey Barracks was made up of 2 rooms, and we do walk inside, you'll be able to see and you'll notice. And what it consisted of was the front door would open into a living room, and well, it had a single window, you can see, and a fireplace, and with a door then leading through to a small bedroom. And these cottages had no running water or electricity and very, very little furniture, and it's understood that up to 4 men would stay in each cottage, which would certainly have been really cramped. And this way of life for the long-distance quarrymen continued until 1937, when a health and safety inspection condemned the barracks as unfit for human habitation. And both rows of buildings, although derelict and without roofs, still stand today and are a fascinating insight into the working way of life for the quarrymen of the time. And as we pass through these Anglesey Barracks, straight forward, the pathway leads across the cable incline and onto one of the large slate heaps. There are many further derelict quarry buildings as we head over there, located on this large section of land, which is great to explore and provides amazing views over Snowdonia, Llanberis and the main galleries of the Dinorwig SLATE quarry. There's one of the wild goats of Dinorwig Quarry. They've got horns, so you do have to be careful, I think. We've never had trouble, but we did disappear soon after this because there was quite a few of them heading towards us. What I was going to say is we really enjoy exploring abandoned buildings and landscapes because it's fascinating to me to see how nature has reclaimed the areas high up on these wind-swept slate mountains. You can see trees growing through the slate and gripping onto the mountainside with their powerful roots. Alpine plants and flowers have provided a carpet of colour underfoot, and it's like nature always wins. And looking across to the main section of the quarry itself, the massive scale of the work that took place here is apparent because row upon row of balconies carved into the mountain stand tall, and again nature is taking over because the trees that look tiny in scale are growing on this landscape, which looks completely uninhabitable for anything. So it's really fascinating to be up here, and it's well worth the effort. But like I said, you do need the correct shoes. It's quite unstable in parts walking. As you can see, the slate here that the way are walking on is quite wobbly in parts. So these old cottages, or Anglesey Barracks as they're called, were built in the 1870s as housing for quarrymen who lived too far away to return home each night. And we passed the 2 rows of 11 cottages opposite each other, and they were built using granite blocks, and the groups of houses were known as barracks. And this barracks is called Dinorwig, or the Anglesey Barracks, because many Dinorwig quarrymen travelled from Anglesey. However, not all of the men who lived here were from Anglesey. Many travelled from many communities in Gwynedd and Anglesey to work at the quarry, and they usually returned home at the weekend. So these barracks up here were built by the quarry owners to house these workers, and we've been in them. The 2 small cottages had, the 2-room small cottages had little protection from the elements, and living conditions were extremely poor, as you can imagine. I was fascinated to hear that the quarrymen living in the barracks visited Dinorwig and Llanberis to attend religious meetings and relax in the village pubs. So you can just imagine what it was like at those times to be in maybe a church or a pub with all of the men together. And yes, just so fascinating to think about that. But when the quarrying actually began in the late 1780s, most quarry workers were local, and as the slate industry grew, workers began to travel from further afield, and initially they were housed in small huts spread across the quarry, and these were often placed in unwelcoming and difficult to reach areas. One such site was the Dolbadarn Gallery, which is 600 metres above sea level. But Dinorwig's supervisor, a guy called Gwynedd and Anglesey, began the process of building new barracks on more suitable sites, and the first one, Eryri, which consisted of 7 cottages in a row, and it was followed by Dinorwig here in a lower part of the quarry. Alf's pretending that he's building a wall. We'll let him think he has. Anyway, just to conclude, after these houses got condemned in 1937, the quarrymen from Anglesey travelled daily in by bus. And then it ends quite sadly because in 1969 August, when the workers were having a summer break, letters arrived stating that the quarry was closed and more than 300 people found themselves out of work. The quarry had employed over 3,000 at its peak and bringing to an end 200 years of production at this quarry. The demand for slate had gone down and the quarry had spent a lot of money trying to develop another part of the quarry, but the rock up there was poor and not very good to make roofing slate. So it came to an end, sadly, this place that had roofed the world. So we'll leave it there for today from Dinorwig Quarry, the abandoned village here in Llanberis in Snowdonia, North Wales, and we'll say ta-ta for now, and we'll see you on the next adventure or the next Welsh lesson or the next Welsh history lesson. Don't forget to keep practicing your Welsh because practice makes perfect. Ta-ta for now, nos da.